The Farmer and the Stork. Once upon a time, in a lush green valley, there was a kind and hardworking farmer who lived on a small farm. The farmer spent his days planting crops, tending to his animals, and taking care of the land that had been passed down to him by his ancestors. He was a simple man, but he took great pride in his work and in the beauty of the land around him. His farm was flourishing, with rows of golden wheat, vegetables, and fruit trees all thriving in the fertile soil. One morning, the farmer noticed something unusual. A flock of storks had flown into his field and were pecking at the seeds he had just sown. The farmer, upset that the birds were destroying his hard work, ran to the field, shouting at them and waving his arms to scare them away. The storks, startled by the farmer's loud cries, flew into the air, but one of them, an older and more tired bird, wasn't fast enough to escape. The farmer saw the stork struggling to take off and quickly ran over to it. The poor stork was caught in the farmer's net, which had been set up to protect his crops from other animals. The farmer, feeling a mix of frustration and pity, stood over the stork and said, "You foolish bird. You've ruined my crops, and now you will pay the price." The stork, terrified but trying to remain calm, spoke in a gentle voice. "Please, kind farmer, don't harm me. I didn't mean to destroy your crops. I was simply hungry, and I thought I might find something to eat in your field. I have no ill intentions." The farmer, looking at the bird closely, noticed how frail and tired it looked. He could see that the stork's wings were worn from a long journey, and its feathers were dull and ragged. It had clearly been flying for days, and the farmer felt a slight pang of sympathy. "I am sorry," the farmer said, his anger starting to fade. "I've worked so hard to grow these crops, and it pains me to see them ruined. But I suppose you were just trying to feed yourself." The stork nodded and pleaded, "Yes, I've traveled far to find food. Please don't hold my hunger against me. I beg you to release me, and I promise I will never return to your field again." The farmer, still upset, was unsure of what to do. He had caught the stork, but part of him didn't want to harm such a beautiful and tired creature. He paused, thinking carefully. "What if I let you go, and you come back to harm my crops again?" the farmer asked. "I give you my word as a bird of honor," the stork said earnestly. "I will never come near your field again. I have learned my lesson." The farmer thought about it for a moment, and then, seeing the sincerity in the stork's eyes, he made a decision. With a sigh, he carefully untangled the net that had ensnared the stork and released the bird from its trap. "Thank you, kind farmer," the stork exclaimed, fluttering its wings in joy. "I will never forget your mercy and kindness. I will be more careful in the future." The farmer watched the stork fly off into the sky, feeling a sense of peace in his heart. He knew he had made the right choice. It wasn't in his nature to be cruel, and he believed that showing kindness to all living creatures was important, even if they had caused him trouble. Days passed, and the farmer continued to work hard on his land. But as time went on, he began to notice something unusual. His crops were being attacked by a new kind of pest, young birds that pecked at the seeds and plants just like the storks had. It seemed that the stork's promise had been forgotten, and now the farmer was faced with the same problem he had dealt with before. One day, while inspecting his field, the farmer saw the very stork that he had spared. The bird flew by, and the farmer shouted at it, "You promised me that you wouldn't return, but now you've sent your friends to destroy my crops." The stork, hearing the farmer's angry words, landed carefully on the edge of the field. "Please, dear farmer, let me explain," the stork said, its voice filled with regret. "I know I promised, but I did not bring these birds to your field. They are young ones, looking for food, and they must have followed me here by mistake. I had no idea they would cause trouble. Please don't punish me for their actions." The farmer, still frustrated but not willing to act in haste, listened carefully. He looked at the stork, who seemed genuinely sorry for the situation, and thought about what to do. "I don't want to be cruel," he said finally, "but my crops are being destroyed, and I have worked too hard to let this continue. What am I to do?" The stork, in a voice filled with sincerity, said, "I understand your frustration, farmer. I would not ask for your forgiveness if I didn't mean it. I will do whatever I can to make amends. Please, let me lead the other birds away from your field." The farmer, although still wary, agreed to the stork's request. "All right, I will give you one more chance. Lead them away from my field, and I will let you go." The stork nodded gratefully and flew high into the sky, calling to the other birds to follow. The young birds, hearing the stork's call, took flight and followed their elder, leaving the farmer's field behind. The stork led them far away, where the fields were more plentiful and less vulnerable to the damage caused by their pecking. From that day on, the farmer never had trouble with the birds again. He was able to harvest his crops in peace, and the stork, keeping its promise, stayed away from the farmer's land. The farmer, though he had learned the hard way, found comfort in the idea that sometimes a little mercy can go a long way. The end. Moral of the story. The farmer and the stork teaches us that acts of kindness and mercy are often rewarded, but it also shows us that promises should be kept. The farmer learned that showing compassion was important, but he also discovered the need for caution. The stork, despite its good intentions, learned that even when we mean no harm, we must be responsible for the consequences of our actions.